Now we're also getting friends of the show, callers, longtime Rich Eisen Show callers who are really wanting to engage with this podcast. Now, our guy Manny, he calls in every now and then, and Manny's always great. He's always a great caller. He called in last week, and he had a question for me, which by proxy, he had a question for you as well.
Okay.
And this is it.
2 questions for my buddy TJ. My second question is a wrestling question.
Okay.
Who's on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling managers?
And Manny, as for the manager question, here's what we'll do. Monday on the podcast, so Shay and I will work that question into the pod. And
Fantastic.
We'll give you our Mount Rushmore of wrestling managers.
And he's got to give
Monday.
it too.
Yeah.
Okay, you'll each do that
We'll
on
each do
No
that
Contest
Monday.
Wrestling.
For Manny.
And that'll be also post Money in the Bank.
Yes,
So
sir.
you'll have lots to talk about on Monday's pod.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Very
TJ
good.
goes and watches.
Look at TJ Jefferson.
Money in the Bank.
He just bought himself 4 days of thinking rather than 4 seconds of thinking and used it as a promo. I don't even know who he is anymore.
He's a professional, Rich. Oh, that was good, TJ.
Thank you. Also, the conversation went further. Del Tufo gave me credit. He said, TJ's a professional, to which Rich said, I've been working with him all this time. He's still not a professional. So,
Hey, man, hostile work environment.
But yeah, my man Manny at El Paso, he's great. He's always got great comments, great questions for the show. So we wanted to know, out of nowhere, what is on our Mount Rushmore of wrestling managers. So I posed this to you, and you were down. So let's give the people what they want. Let's let them know who is on our Mount Rushmore. What do you have, Mr. Jackson?
Well, first and foremost, I feel like this guy is going to be on both of our lists.
Okay.
There's no way you have a Mount Rushmore. And we've had him on the show, and he said that, manager is such a, it's beneath everything that he really does. But just for the sake of conversation, Paul Heyman.
Okay.
Paul Heyman's got to be on my Mount Rushmore. Absolutely. Also, when we do it back and forth, or you want me to just lay it out?
Go ahead, lay it out.
All right. Next, next, when I think about myself and who I would want backing me up on the mic, it has to be somebody who will bring the same energy as me and in some ways can out-ish talk me.
Okay.
Which is kind of hard to do.
I mean,
come from a long line of ish talkers. But I got to go with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
Wow, okay.
Having him have my back, boy, it ain't nothing like a Nepo baby with somebody talking money with him.
And he also is a Nepo baby. His dad was a wrestler. And if you get in trouble, he'll just buy your way out of trouble. So,
which is the American way.
Man, that is a good call there.
Then when I'm thinking about somebody loud and proud and doesn't care about your opinion, they're just going to put what they want over. How could I go against the legend Jim Cornette? Come on, man. Jim Cornette in my corner. That would just, it would be an unstoppable force, he and I.
And Jim Cornette likes you. He don't like a whole lot of people, I don't think. But I found a video a few weeks ago where you had made some comments about AEW, and Jim Cornette was loving everything you were saying. And I was like,
it was just constructive criticism, bro.
We need to get James E. We know he don't travel. Yeah. Jim Cornette, we need him to zoom into the pod. That would be great.
And last but not least, now I'm going to dabble a little bit, and I got to give a shout out to the ladies. Lord knows Shay loves shouting out the ladies.
Yes, you do.
And if I could think of somebody powerful enough with a sharp enough bite and might also slap the shit out you, I got to go with Stephanie McMahon.
Wow.
The power I would have.
But Steph wasn't technically a manager,
Listen, bro, when I think of things like, when I think of things like the Authority, and I think about how powerful it was for somebody like Seth Rollins to have,
Okay.
Yeah, but no, Paul Heyman is what he needed. But anyway, yeah, so Stephanie McMahon, if I had Stephanie McMahon as my man, I could do nothing wrong.
And, the thing about Steph, it was almost unfair with Steph, right?
That's why
she had supreme power. Like, if you were a dude, she could come slap you, do whatever. You couldn't do nothing back. If you were a girl, she's a former women's champion. She might be able to twist you up a little bit if you wanted to step to her.
Yeah.
So,
Hit you with a pedigree?
Steph was pretty much one of the most unstoppable forces because there's nothing you could do to her.
What you gonna do? I dare you. I dare you. You want some time off? You'll get some time off.
All right, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. So, all right. So to give my list, I got to, my list is a little bit more old school. Usually, that's how you and I do here.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit more old school on things, but I got to start off with quite possibly the greatest manager of all time, and the list of wrestlers that he's managed is like a who's who of talent, from Andre the Giant to Nick Bockwinkel to Rick Rude to Ray Stevens.
It's another Bockwinkel drop.
Nick Bockwinkel,
boy.
Mr. Perfect, Ric Flair. That's Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yes.
Not only was he a world-class manager, not only was he world-class on the microphone as an announcer, but Nick Bockwinkel, I'll just say it again, Nick Bockwinkel once said, the thing about Bobby Heenan is Nick Bockwinkel and Ray Stevens were one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And this is before Nick Bockwinkel went on a decade-long run as AWA heavyweight champion. But he once said, Bobby can do what I do and what Ray does. But Ray and I can't do what Bobby does. And I think that there says something, because Heenan, you've only seen him, when he was older, taking bumps in the Weasel suit, getting thrown around by the Warrior and Andre. But Bobby wrestled too. So, he was very adept in taking bumps and being in the ring. He could just do it all. And as a manager,
little Bobby the Brain Heenan Snapple fact.
Okay.
From Shay. Very first episode of Monday Night Raw, first wrestler you see is Bobby the Brain Heenan. Kicked it all off.
Really?
A segment outside the building. Yeah, I was just watching.
You were just watching the beginning of Raw. All right, so I got Bobby the Brain Heenan. Bobby was so good at being bad that he made the most universally loved wrestler alive, Andre the Giant, helped turn him into a heel to the point where people were throwing trash at them as they were making their way up and down the aisle, WrestleMania.
Ducking after they threw it.
Only Heenan could do that to Andre. So that's why I've got Bobby there. Now, my next one, I couldn't decide between these two men because they came from the same time period. So I had to give them both love. And that is a man I mentioned last week, Captain Lou Albano, and the fashion plate, Classy Freddie Blassie. When I was a little kid coming up watching wrestling, these were the managers, along with the Grand Wizard of Wrestling, who they were your heel managers. They had all the top heel guys in the company. They were all going after the champion, whether it be Bob Backlund, whether it be Hulk Hogan. It was always one of those guys who were managing the heels. And Captain Lou Albano, like I said last week, 15 different tag teams. He led to tag team championships, 4 different men to singles titles. 34 different wrestlers got gold with Captain Lou Albano, kind of steering their ship. He's the captain. Right. It? So I got to put him there. And then you got Classy Freddie Blassie, who was also one of the greatest heel wrestlers back in the 50s, 60s of all time. Spent a lot of time here on the West Coast. Once his career wound down, he became a manager, one of the most prominent figures in the WWF back then. And he also was the man who led the hated Iron Sheik to a victory, ending the damn near 6-year reign of the guy whose name I mentioned all the time, Bob Backlund. That was the Ayatollah. Freddie Blassie, from his gear, he was always dressed to the nines. That's why he was classy. To the amount of men, in Hall of Famers, Hulk Hogan, the Iron Sheik, Peter Maivia, Nikolai Volkov, Adrian Adonis, Ray Stevens, Jesse Ventura, Dick Murdoch, Kamala. The list goes on and on. Classy Freddie Blassie and Lou Albano. I've got them both there. And then third, my third manager is a guy who didn't really make his bones in WWE, but everywhere outside of WWE knew this man, and that's Gary Hart. Gary Hart, one of the great minds in professional wrestling. I used to do a lot of research on him. Managed later in his career the Great Muta, who is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. He was very big in WCCW. He managed Gorgeous Gino Hernandez and the Gentleman Chris Adams. Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch back in the day. He managed them. Terry Funk, the great Kabuki in addition to Muta. Abdullah the Butcher, Killer Tim Brooks. I mean, the list goes on and on. A lot of world-class championship wrestling out of Texas. Really kind of made his name there. He wasn't a big WWE guy, which is why I feel he doesn't get the respect and the props that he deserves. Gary Hart is that guy for me. And fourth, you already named him, This man has managed not one, not two, not three, not four. You think I'm going to stop? I ain't stopping. No, not five, but 6 world champions were managed. We call him an advocate. They were managed. He was either an advocate. I was about to say advocated for. Is that the right way?
I guess so.
6 different world champions, in addition to everyone else, were led by this man, and that is Paul Heyman. And because of that, he has to have a role, a place on this Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, bro. Paul Heyman.
I was having a hard time with the advocate word there. I don't know if you saw it. My mind was spinning. I'm like, is it
it's all right.
advocate? It is advocate.
I thought you were drowning.
I just want to make. I remember I was caught in my mind. I was like, is that the right word?
and they're searching.
So if it looked like I was struggling there, folks, I was a little bit.
Shout out to Manny.
Manny from El Paso.
So Manny from El Paso, bro. Shout out to Manny.
So I really like that. That was a great question. And look, man, if you're out there, if you're watching the Rich Eisen Show, or you're watching this podcast, if there's questions that you have, if there's lists that you want, let us know, man, because obviously we'll do them.